Hello friends, hold up, because what just crawled out of that UMG paperwork leak is gonna leave you speechless. And if you were only reading the trending headlines this week, you got robbed of the actual detonation. Everybody stopped at page 1. Everybody stopped at the Kendrick Lamar raise, the marketing reweight, the PG Lang expansion clauses, and they walked away thinking they had the whole picture. They didn't. Page 2 is where hip-hop just changed forever. And I had to rewind 3 times to believe what's sitting on that second sheet. Because according to sourcing now lining up from 3 separate directions, Universal is quietly pulling 3 current OVO artists into direct signing conversations behind Drake's back. 3. Not 1. Not a rumor. 3. And Drake really thought this was his moment to drop a triple album and remind everyone he's the boss? Bro, read the room, you didn't drop a flex, you dropped a smoke signal that the parent label is already sharpening the knife. Before we dive deep into this madness, smash that like button right now, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. This one's about to break the internet. Let's get into it. Alright, so here's the skeleton before we go forensic. The trending story right now on every YouTube search bar is UMG leak page 2 OVO artists. That's the phrase catching fire this week, and every corny trade blog dodged it like it was radioactive. What allegedly went public is a second sheet of that Universal Music Group paperwork that names 3 artists currently signed under the OVO Sound umbrella, who are in active, quiet talks to jump directly onto the UMG parent roster, cutting Drake's Imprint completely out of the revenue split. This surfaced through leak sourcing across Los Angeles, Toronto, and Atlanta over the past several days, tied to the same document that revealed the Kendrick Lamar royalty bump and the PG Lang veto clauses on West Coast rollouts. Drake reportedly found out from the leak the same week the public did. And this dude thought a triple album drop was gonna scare Universal? Bruh, you just handed them the perfect cover story. Now let's actually unpack the receipts and expose what nobody in mainstream has the guts to touch. In the original leak analysis making the rounds this week, the breakdown reportedly states that page 2 names 3 OVO roster artists being pulled into direct signing conversations with Universal, language that in industry paperwork means the parent label is preparing to absorb the artists onto the main roster and quietly walk them past the imprint they're currently sitting under. When I heard this framing I was like, hold on, that's not a rumor, that's a corporate takeover mapped in ink. Bro, when the parent label starts using words like direct signing for artists who already have an active imprint deal, that's not restructuring, that's a hostile absorption dressed up in HR clothes. According to Billboard's own confirmation, Universal Music Publishing Group already signed Kendrick Lamar to an exclusive worldwide administration deal. So the paper trail of UMG betting the West Coast farm on K-Dot is not speculation. It's on their own press wire. Nah, you can't post those press releases publicly, and then act shocked when insiders start reading between the lines. It's over. According to Puck News as reported by HABIBTI and Yahoo Finance, Drake's own team is currently in discussions to sell a 50% stake of OVO to Authentic Brands Group, the same licensing giant that owns Reebok, Champion, and legacy estates like Elvis and Muhammad Ali. When I read that, my jaw literally dropped because you don't put your brand into a licensing conglomerate that specializes in dead icons unless you're already preparing for a legacy chapter, not a growth chapter. That dude really thought selling half his imprint to a brand mausoleum was a power move? Bruh, that's the corporate equivalent of writing your own eulogy in gold ink. According to Billboard's chart report, Drake's ICEMAN, HABIBTI, and MAID OF HONOUR debuted at number 1, 2, and 3 on the Billboard 200 with combined first-week units in the neighborhood of roughly 687,000 across all 3 projects, with ICEMAN reportedly landing around 463,000, HABIBTI at 114,000, and MAID OF HONOUR at 110,000. On paper that reads like a flex. In practice, spreading 3 albums across one release week to chart stack is the move of an artist whose team is trying to inflate raw unit numbers to justify their internal projections to the label. When I saw those splits I said nah, this ain't dominance, this is quota hitting. Nah bro, you don't need 3 albums to prove you're winning. You need 3 albums to prove you're scared. It's over. Reportedly, per the same leak analysis, Universal is offsetting the cost of Kendrick's new deal terms by direct signing high-yield OVO artists onto the main roster, meaning K-Dot's raise is quite literally being funded by cannibalizing Drake's imprint. When I processed that, I had to sit down. That's not shade, that's arithmetic. That's a spreadsheet in a boardroom that reads subtract from column A, add to column B, and column A is Drake's paycheck. That is the dumbest position to be in, and Drake walked into it while filming Instagram stories. Now that we've got the receipts on record, let's connect the dots nobody else is connecting. Now here's where it gets insane because the timeline is louder than any lyric on any of those 3 albums. Remember that leak? It dropped in the same window Drake was rolling out 3 albums back to back, meaning the parent label was quietly negotiating with his artists while his own promo cycle was consuming every ounce of his public attention. That's not coincidence. That's ambush timing. That interview? It happened right around the moment the Authentic brand's 50% sale news started circulating publicly, which means Drake's imprint was being valued for a licensing carve-out at the exact moment Universal was mapping a roster raid on the other side of the building. Here's what nobody's asking. Why would Drake sell half his imprint to a company that specializes in licensing dead legacies? Because when your parent label is quietly restructuring you into irrelevance, you cash out the brand equity before the collapse becomes public. That's not paranoia. That's Wall Street 101 executed under a rap logo. The pattern here is crazy once you see it. Kendrick Lamar signs a worldwide publishing deal with UMP through the TDE partnership, confirmed by Universal's own official press release. Then PG Lang expands. Then Dave Free starts publicly hinting at Kendrick's 7th album being completed. Then a UMG paperwork leak surfaces showing K-Dot getting a royalty bump and PG Lang getting veto clauses on West Coast rollouts. Then page 2 of that same leak names 3 OVO artists being pulled to the main roster. And in the middle of all of that, Drake drops 3 albums in one night and puts his brand up for a 50% sale to a licensing conglomerate. That's not a series of unrelated events, bro. That's a chess sequence, and Drake is playing checkers with the pieces flipped upside down. Remember the roster? OVO Sound's current listed artists per their own website include Imprint, DVSN, Majid Jordan, Roy Woods, Popcorn, Baka Not Nice, Smiley, and Naomi Sharon. Fans on X already flagged that no UMG-affiliated artists were featured across Drake's 3 new albums. Party Next Door is Sony/OVO. Future is Sony/Epic, which reportedly raised eyebrows because the feature list on a triple album should look like a UMG family reunion if the relationship between Drake and Universal was actually healthy. It didn't. It looked isolated. So Drake really thought releasing 3 albums with 0 UMG loyalists on the tracklist was going to be read as independence? Bruh, that got read as exile. This is amateur hour geopolitical strategy, and Universal noticed. So here's the connect. This whole moment isn't about beef anymore. This isn't Kendrick versus Drake in the booth. This is Universal versus OVO in the paperwork, and Kendrick's camp doesn't even have to swing. That's when you know Drake doesn't have real advisors in the war room. He's got yes men and vibes. But here's where it gets even more insane, the details nobody else caught. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about the specific corporate language allegedly used in that page 2 document. When the parent label uses the phrase direct signing conversations instead of renegotiation or extension talks, that's a signal in industry paperwork that the imprint isn't being renewed. The imprint is being bypassed. Bruh, that's not a nuance, that's a coffin nail. This means Universal isn't trying to keep OVO functional. Universal is trying to migrate the valuable assets out of OVO while OVO still exists as a legal shell, so nobody can accuse them of dissolving the imprint. That's how Cash Money got hollowed out over the back half of the 2010s. That's the exact same playbook. And Drake really didn't catch that? That's embarrassing on a whole new level. Now zoom into the Authentic Brands play. Authentic Brands Group specifically specializes in licensing IP from cultural icons, living and dead. That's their entire business model. Elvis, Shaq, Muhammad Ali, Reebok, Champion. When they take on a 50% stake in your brand, they're not doing it because they think you're about to explode into new markets. They're doing it because they've calculated the lifetime value of your logo as a merchandising asset, independent of your music career. That means Drake's team is quietly monetizing the OVO logo as a legacy brand. Same category as posthumous Elvis royalties. That right there? That's where he lost every ounce of credibility as a boss. You don't sell to authentic brands when you're winning. You sell to authentic brands when you're exiting. Now check the release cadence forensics. 3 albums. One night. Number 1, 2, and 3 on Billboard 200. Sounds unstoppable, right? Wrong. Look at the sequential drop-off. ICEMAN pulls 463,000. HABIBTI pulls 114,000. MAID of HONOUR pulls 110,000. That's a 75% audience collapse from album 1 to album 2. In sales math, that's not 3 successful releases. That's 1 release with 2 overflow projects that got carried by fan loyalty and stream stacking. If those had been released 3 separate months apart, HABIBTI and MAID of HONOUR would have been reported as MID at best. He clustered them to hide the individual weakness. That's not a flex. That's camouflage. And the parent label sees through it because the parent label reads the SEA breakdown, not the headline. And this dude really thought Universal wouldn't notice? If Drake had half a functioning strategist in the room, he would have caught this before greenlighting a triple drop cycle. Now check the PG Lang architecture. According to the leak framing, Universal is not routing the 3 OVO defectors through Kendrick Lamar's PG Lang imprint. They're routing them directly to the parent roster and keeping PG Lang cleanly untouched. That's the detail that gave me a chills moment, because if PG Lang absorbed those artists, the story becomes hostile takeover by Kendrick Lamar. But by routing through Universal first, PG Lang stays philosophically untouched, and the narrative becomes Universal restructuring West Coast priorities. That's the story trade press will actually publish. That's the story that keeps Dave Free's whole brand sacred and independent. That's not a coincidence. That's an engineered optics play. And the fingerprints on that engineering match every move Dave Free has made for the last 2 years. Maximum optionality for Kendrick's side. Zero visible aggression from Kendrick's side. That's the problem with Drake. He can't read between the lines because he's still reading the first line. And PG Lang wrote the whole book already. Now let's see how the media tried to spin this whole mess. Complex framed the triple album drop as historic dominance, leaning heavily on the Billboard chart stacking and the top 3 chart lock, treating it like a coronation moment for Drake. Their entire angle was, he made history at 1, 2, and 3. That's a headline framing designed to reinforce Drake's narrative, without questioning the underlying math. Hot New Hip Hop went a slightly different direction, reporting the authentic brand's 50% sale as a business expansion story, framing it like Drake is entering the Elvis-tier legacy brand category on purpose, positioning it as an evolution rather than a defensive exit. That's the softer spin, but it conveniently avoids asking why a 38-year-old active rapper would need Elvis-tier legacy licensing right now. Puck News and Yahoo Finance played it straighter, reporting the sale discussions as is and letting the reader draw their own conclusions about what a licensing sale signals about long-term brand confidence. Meanwhile, Billboard buried the Essia versus Pure Sales breakdown deep in the chart report, letting the number 1, 2, and 3 headline do all the heavy lifting on the public side. That's the framing hierarchy right there. Trade press amplifies the flex, business press reports the caution, and nobody connects the 2 dots on the same page. Now some Drake supporters are saying page 2 of the leak is fabricated, that the roster raid framing is speculation, that Universal wouldn't cannibalize its own imprint. Here's why that argument crumbles. Universal Music Publishing Group already publicly announced the Kendrick Lamar worldwide administration deal on their own press wire. The corporate priority shift is already in ink. If UMG is publicly aligning its West Coast infrastructure around KDOT, of course the internal budgeting has to come from somewhere, and imprint restructuring is the cheapest place to pull that money from. Some Drake fans are saying this is all cap, but those are the same people who thought ICEMAN's chart position meant ICEMAN was culturally dominant when the streaming curve says otherwise. The media is trying to spin this for Drake, but the receipts don't lie, the truth is louder. But here's what nobody in mainstream media has the guts to say. Here's what mainstream won't touch. This whole moment is a money war, not a rap war, and Drake is losing on the ledger while thinking he's winning on the timeline. Follow the money because that's where the truth lives. The trending angle right now, the one every real hip-hop head is searching for on YouTube this week, is, what happens to OVO after page 2? And here's the answer nobody in the trade press is willing to publish. Universal's entire business model runs on imprint rotation. When one imprint stops being the parent's cultural priority, the parent doesn't shut it down. That would trigger free agency chaos where Sony or Warner could poach the roster at cut rate. Instead, Universal quietly reaches into the imprint, pulls the 2 or 3 most valuable artists onto the main roster, and lets the imprint fade into legacy status while its founder keeps his logo on the wall. That's not a theory, bro. That's what happened to Death Row in the late 90s. That's what happened to Cash Money across the 2010s. That's the standard operating procedure of major label consolidation, and it's happening to OVO in real time right now while Drake is filming Instagram stories about how many chart records he just tied. And here's the money layer nobody's mapping. Kendrick's raise is being funded by Drake's roster. When Universal restructured its West Coast priorities and cut KDOT a bigger royalty share, the budget didn't materialize out of thin air. The money came from projected revenue reallocation, and the cheapest way to reallocate revenue is to move the highest earning artists off an imprint split sheet and onto the parent's direct roster. That way, the parent keeps 100% of the artist's earnings instead of splitting with OVO. Meaning every dollar Kendrick just earned in that raise is a dollar Drake just lost from his imprint's future accounting. Drake is quite literally paying for Kendrick's raise out of his own imprint's projected earnings, and he doesn't even know it yet. That's not beef. That's not shade. That's a spreadsheet in a Universal boardroom that reads Drake's name in the source column and Kendrick's name in the destination column. Drake is a puppet on visible strings, and the label is pulling those strings while he thinks he's still calling shots. The industry needs Drake to fail quietly, because a loud failure would trigger a Warner or Sony bidding war for the OVO defectors, And Universal wants those artists at Universal-controlled rates, not open market rates. So the play is to hollow OVO out silently while Drake performs dominance in public to keep the narrative controlled. Bruh, this is playing 4D chess against a guy playing Uno with the cards face up. Every move Drake makes was predicted weeks ago in a UMG budget meeting he wasn't invited to. And now the authentic brands angle makes complete sense. Selling 50% of OVO to a licensing conglomerate isn't a growth move. It's a hedge. Drake's team saw the roster raid coming, or at least suspected it. And they're monetizing the brand equity before the Imprint collapse becomes public knowledge. Cash out the logo now, worry about the roster later. That's a defensive financial maneuver, not an offensive brand expansion. Drake represents the OLD guard that the culture has already moved past. Kendrick spent the last 2 years silent, in the studio, letting Dave free architect PG Lang into a structural power play with veto clauses over West Coast rollouts. Drake spent the last 2 years chasing headlines, feuding, releasing, relitigating, filing, deflecting, and now dropping 3 albums in one night to prove he still matters. Those are 2 artists playing entirely different games. Only one of them was ever going to survive the ending, and the paperwork on page 2 is the receipt. Drake is rewriting history in real time because his real story right now is too bitter to sell. The story of an artist whose imprint is being quietly cannibalized to fund his rival's raise. And Drake's whole boss persona is manufactured. The mask is slipping in real time, and the triple album drop was the last performance of that mask before the roster starts leaking names publicly. And that's the truth they'll never put on the front page. So the real question is, what happens next? Buckle up because it's about to get wild. Here's what's most likely to unfold over the next 60 to 90 days. The 3 OVO artist names on page 2 are going to start surfacing publicly. Not all at once but staggered one by one, through leaks that Universal will neither confirm nor deny. When the first name drops, the industry blogs will treat it as a routine contract restructuring. When the second name drops, the coverage will shift to concern. When the third name drops, it will be labeled a collapse. And Drake is not going to respond to any of it publicly, because responding would confirm what's happening. Instead, watch for Drake to escalate his social media presence, ramp up the loyalty posts about OVO's founding artists, and start publicly celebrating roster members he barely engaged with all year. That will be the tell. That will be the panic move disguised as brand building. When Drake doesn't even respond to the first name leak, he's gonna look desperate, screaming loyalty into the void, while the artists are already in signing meetings. The silence from the artists themselves is gonna damage him more than any diss track ever could, because silence from your own roster is the loudest confession in music. And Kendrick? Kendrick is gonna stay exactly where he is, in the studio at his family's dinner table, saying nothing publicly, letting Dave free run the corporate architecture. That's how you know K-Dot already won. His absence is louder than Drake's triple album drop, and the paperwork is doing the work for him. Now if the alternative scenario plays out, meaning Universal chickens out on the direct signings and only lands one of the 3 OVO artists, Drake still loses. Because even one departure signals to the entire roster that meetings are being taken. And the moment one artist walks, every other artist on OVO's roster starts asking their manager if they should be taking meetings too. That's not a departure. That's a stampede in slow motion. It takes 12 to 18 months to stabilize a roster after one high-profile defection, and Drake doesn't have 12 to 18 months of narrative runway because his next album cycle is already going to be haunted by the shadow of the defection. Drake is not ready for what's coming even if only one name leaks, because one name leaked means every A&R at Warner, Sony, and Republic starts making calls to the remaining OVO roster within 48 hours. That's the industry standard response. If Drake takes it seriously enough to counteroffer, he's gonna have to burn cash he doesn't have leverage over, because remember 50% of OVO is being sold to authentic brands, which limits what he's even legally allowed to negotiate without a partner sign-off. He's cornered by his own recent business moves. We saw what silence did to his last public feud. Drake doesn't stand a prayer against a coordinated corporate restructuring on top of that. Now looking at the bigger picture, 5 years from now this is going to be studied as the case study of how an artist-founded imprint gets dismantled in the modern major label era. This isn't just OVO's problem. This is the moment every artist-founded imprint founder in hip-hop is going to reread their contracts. Because what page 2 proves is that the parent label always has the last hand. Always. The moment your imprint stops being the parent's cultural priority, the parent starts pulling artists out of it, and there's no clause in your deal that can stop them. Not the founder. Not the branding. Not the loyalty. Nothing. If OVO can be hollowed out in a matter of quarters, no artist-led imprint is ever safe again. This is gonna be the moment everyone remembers, as when Drake's institutional power officially died. His personal music career will keep going, He'll keep charting, keep touring, keep merchandising through the Authentic Brands partnership. But the OVO empire as a structural power in the industry? That chapter is closing whether the public wants to accept it or not. Drake is watching the culture move on without the infrastructure he spent 15 years building, and there's nothing he can do to stop it because the paperwork was signed in rooms he wasn't invited to. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar's legacy elevates without him having to lift a finger. The industry is restructuring the entire West Coast around his gravitational pull, and PG Lang inherits the cultural weight of being the West Coast label of record without ever having to publicly fire a shot. That's not a rapper winning a beef. That's a rapper winning the entire industry. Whatever unfolds from here, one thing is crystal clear. Drake already lost this war. He just doesn't know it yet. Alright friends, that's the full breakdown. The truth nobody else had the guts to tell you. If this exposed something you didn't know, do me one favor. Smash that like button so this video reaches every real hip-hop fan out there. Hit subscribe right now and ring that notification bell, because the next story we're dropping is even crazier, and you do not want to miss it. Drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on. I read every single one. And if you want more truth bombs like this, click on one of these videos on your screen right now. Trust me, you're gonna want to see what we uncovered next. Peace.